And the faculty and staff have to think like a therapist. So we just want to be able to address student behavior, but not as a consequence, but understanding the root cause of it so that we can help them become healthier so that they can then become academically competitive.
What up, though, Black Friday family? Welcome back to another installment of the Black Fridays podcast. I need you to sit up straight and pay attention because we got a superintendent in the building. So I would like to introduce you to Mr. Derek Coleman. How are you?
Yeah, I'm well. But respectfully, I'm Dr. Derek Coleman.
Oh, excuse me. No, gotta make sure you get it right. Yeah,
with all
we're gonna
due
run
respect.
it back. Not Mr. Dr. Derek Coleman.
Yes,
welcome
sir.
to the podcast.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. So I'm curious because I never understood this coming up in school. So your current title is superintendent. You've had several titles over the years and working in education. What's the difference between like a superintendent, between a principal, between any other like roles that would kind of be at that level who are like overseeing or like the leadership team of schools or a district, anything like that?
Yeah, and that's a great question because people always ask, what do you do? And you're responsible for everything. So being the superintendent is the equivalent to being the mayor of a city.
Okay.
So whereas the mayor is responsible for the fire department, police, water, all of the infrastructure, everything that supports running a city, transportation, that's what superintendents do. The only difference is my job is to create academically competitive students from, an impoverished community. But if a mayor's responsibility is to provide quality of service and improve the livelihood for people in the city, that's the same thing a superintendent does.
Gotcha. And you have been more than willing to take on the challenge of working with those students who come from those underserved areas and underserved communities. For you, what is that motivating factor in order to help work with that particular group of students? Because in the work that I've done in education and mentoring over the years, you have and we talked about it before we started recording, you have like your different levels, essentially. You have your students who are going to be successful no matter what. They're just going to always knock it out of the park. Yes. Or they have that infrastructure at home. You have that middle group who can literally go either way. And then you may have a group that's like, look, I'm turning up no matter where I'm at, and I could care less about school or whatever the case may be. So you have your different pillars, but like what kind of encouraged you to work with that core, that middle group who could kind of go either way in life?
Yep. So two of my favorite shows of all time, The Wire and Snowfall, and I don't know if you've watched either, but The Wire talked about Baltimore. And it dealt with heroin addiction. It dealt with these multiple institutions that make up community, and they just focused on Baltimore. Thought it was an incredible show because it dealt with the opioid epidemic and crack. So I am a product of the city of Detroit. I'm 52 years old, so I'm a 70s baby. Grew up in the 80s, and I can remember the city of Detroit before crack. I grew up with the sons and daughters of heroin addicts, or as we call them, dope fiends. And so they were incredibly gifted and talented kids who just didn't have the support at home. I am the last generation that had traditional grandparents and the first generation of young guys who were able to get off the porch and start hustling. So what happens when children don't have a supportive environment at home where the absence of abuse, neglect, and household dysfunction and community violence, they'll find ways, they're in survival mode. So for me, how do you create opportunities for those kids? The only place we all went that was consistent was school. So what should school have looked like for children who based off of whether it's the zip code or the family unit, they're not going to be successful. And educators respectfully do the very best that they can. And I just don't think educators thought about what those kids needed because the focus was on creating students who perform well academically. But how can I do that if there's no one home? If I have responsibility for younger siblings, I don't feel safe. So my situation wasn't like that. I grew up with a single mother, no father, in the household. Mm-hmm. I almost hate using that narrative because you hear it all the time.
Right.
But it was just my reality. But for me, what made myself and my brother, special in that environment was our home unit. If you could not guarantee that a student came from, a home that could provide them that support, then school should. So it was just it was me carrying this survivor's guilt for a group of people who didn't have the opportunities that I had, but I knew had they, or if the school could have supported it, their outcomes would have been different.
Mm-hmm. And given that you have such a established career in education, would you say that's what like brought you back? Because obviously you had to go through your own learning, education, and experiences. Is that what brought you back into saying like, you know, let me go back and be able to provide the things that I know and was able to learn in these institutions?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, if you really just, we're walking through life, right? We're all pilgrims, you know, on this pilgrimage, this traverse. And you're looking at people, but we're not present. We're not really paying attention to those things that are going on or why is society the way that it is. We're just trying to figure things out. So for me, again, I had survivor's guilt. I thought there was nothing special about me. And then you get into this space and you realize that there were some gifts that I had that my friends didn't, which afforded me an opportunity. Mm. And when you get there and the people who you started with aren't there with you, it's a little lonely.
Yeah.
You make new friends, so there are different chapters in your life. But you can never forget what poverty feels like. You can never forget the guys that were on your baseball team or basketball team or who you played football with who didn't get that chance. Mm-hmm. And so we all have an opportunity to make a choice. You can choose to do something or you can choose to be somebody. So I could have chased individual fame or stardom and had become a politician or an attorney. I choose to do something, which is help kids who would not have had an opportunity had I not made that choice. Use my network and my ability to leverage resources and support to get them what I knew we needed. So if we needed it in the 70s, these kids are in much more disadvantaged situations than me and my friends were. So it's just like I'm a messenger from the future. It's like the Terminator and I'm John Connor. I can go back to say, hey, here's what's gonna happen. I couldn't. But in the future, I can be like, here's what I'm gonna do for you so that I can create greater guarantees for your outcome.
Right. That's amazing. And I definitely have follow-up questions for you, but I'm going to introduce you to my favorite part of Black Fridays, which is Freestyle Fridays.
Okay.
So, Dr. Coleman, if you got like 6 bars, 8 bars, I don't know if you want to rap a little something for us, or if I give you an out, you can just do the rapid fire questions.
Okay, give me the rapid fire. Okay. I don't want to embarrass myself.
For sure. All right. So, first question: what would you say is the greatest album of all time?
Greatest album of all time. Michael Jackson, Thriller.
Can't go wrong with that one.
Right.
Can't go wrong with that one.
Now, if I had different genres to choose from, if I had to choose rap or whatever the case, but I'm going to go with Michael Jackson's Thriller. If I go rap, it's going to be Run DMC, Raising Hell.
Okay. That's solid. That's a solid lineup. I want to know, what's your favorite school that you've been to, just like as far as being in aesthetics or whatever, that you have not either attended or that you worked at?
My favorite school. We're talking K-12?
Yeah. Yep.
Man, so that's a hard question. and I want to be quick. And the reason I say it is because you can love more than one person.
True.
You can have been in love with more than one person. So my first love would have been Central High School in Detroit where I taught. My second love would have been Pontiac Central where I taught. Third would have been River Rouge. I've loved them all for different reasons, but I've loved them all with everything that I had in me in that place.
They just came at different parts of the timeline.
Absolutely.
Love that. Love that. That's what's up. What would you say is a hidden gem of the city of Detroit that you personally enjoy?
The people. You know, it's funny, you can have, if you look at the national narrative about there's nothing great happening in Black Detroit. Detroit is going through its gentrification. You can see downtown changing, but the spirit of the people in Detroit is its greatest asset. It's both known and unknown. And so as far back as Motown and the things that came about until today, I think the people, are Detroiter when you're out.
Yeah.
It ain't just the what up, though. It is literally, there's an energy that we have. That is Detroit's greatest asset.
Absolutely. And I've lived in a few different places. in my adult life, and yeah, people know it's definitely it's a essence that we have. It's a aura that we have, and you go other places, they can tell somebody from Detroit if you ever encountered the city or encountered somebody else from Detroit before.
They'll just walk and I'll be like, "You from the D?"
Yep.
And we can't explain it, but you just know. And that is a hidden gem, because it doesn't matter what the infrastructure looks like. Doesn't matter if there's vacant buildings or whatever the case. The people in Detroit are the dopest people on the planet.
I love that. I agree wholeheartedly. And could you tell us something that a young person has taught you?
KRS-One talked about that. He said that the young struggle because they're not able to receive advice from us. And we age and become insignificant because we're not talking to young people. So what have young people taught me? That if they're given another opportunity, they'll eventually make things right. Adults oftentimes are just too critical on young people. They're holding them hostage for a decision that they made before they had wisdom. So young people just taught me the power of what another chance, provides.
That's amazing. Well, congrats to you. You successfully passed Freestyle Friday, right, so appreciate you engaging the randomness. Next time you can rap.
I started midway to be like, just let me give you these bars. If you heard my playlist is so ratchet. So I would ask you about the Kendrick Drake beef, but we can talk about that later.
Yeah, I can go on for, I didn't got deep into the history. So I don't know if we got enough time for today, but so in terms of the work that you're passionate about doing and working with these students and what you've been doing for years, is there's an element of trauma that students need to overcome in order to achieve their maximum potential, or at least at that period of time, the potential that they could very well have. So I just wanted you to talk more about what are some of the resources that you are using in order to kind of help attack that and work with these students. What are some of the methods that you might have, and what does that look like in terms of like your day-to-day work?
Yeah. So post-pandemic wisdom, right? There was pre-pandemic America, post-pandemic. And we forget about how just overwhelmingly negative the images and the conditions that we were going through during the pandemic. These kids came back into somebody's school. I was already doing work around trauma before that, because poverty in itself is a traumatic event or experience that they do not have an outlet from, except for coming into schools, which themselves as institutions could be traumatizing. So for me, the work is just simple. How do you individualize the support that each child gets? Every child that walks through there is a different person. If you're a parent and you have more than one child, we believe that we're parenting them equally or the same. You can't, because each child has different needs. So if you know that I'm coming from an environment that I didn't sleep last night, that somebody may have been sexually assaulting me, I may have been listening to my mother or somebody beaten, how could you realistically expect for me to come into classroom primed for instruction? So what do we provide? We provide, a safe space for our students, that when they come in, it is okay for them to greet us with, here are the issues that I'm having, or today is fine. We provide them with supportive adults who are trained to address the trauma. The greatest thing that I've learned post-pandemic was that you can't have healthy children without healthy adults. So the adults came back and their behaviors were just as aggravated as the students, right? But what I realized then was we forgot that many of these adults have unresolved childhood debt or trauma. So we become actors, like we're an avatar that use that character to navigate through life, to find success in whatever it is that we've been able to endure. But there's some things that that happened to many of us in our childhood that have never been addressed. So we suppress it. But that unresolved trauma shows up, it damages or hurts our relationships moving forward. So we're unable to find a mate because we're bleeding on them for things that we can't explain. So I'm addressing both the adult trauma and the childhood trauma by looking at their adverse childhood experiences. How do we create, I have therapists that our students do. If you go to the doctor every year for a wellness exam, all they're doing is literally a battery of tests to see how are you this year from your previous year. Our students take mental wellness assessments, because you can't help children if you don't know what's hurting them. How do you provide a trust that may have been destroyed by their caregivers early to let them know that you're not going to weaponize anything that they're sharing with you against them, but we'll provide support through our community partners, whether it be Forgotten Harvest, through food, the United Way, who have been incredible partners of ours to help address, the adverse conditions of poverty, Wayne Metro. And I know I'm leaving some out because I'm not necessarily using this as a commercial, just simply to say, if you recognize the non-academic barriers, you find partners to provide them with support. And then the school and the faculty and staff have to think like a therapist. So we just want to be able to address student behavior, but not as a consequence, but understanding the root cause of it so that we can help them become healthier so that they can then become academically competitive.
Gotcha. And I'm curious because I'm pretty sure that this is a system and a commitment to a process that you had to help establish. This wasn't, because this is not common for a lot of institutions. It's like, hey, look, we got our staff, we got our faculty, we just trying to make it through the day or make it through the school year.
Yes.
And, that's something that's extra. And, if we can make time for it, great, but that ain't our main focus. So what was it like trying to establish that type of process, that type of culture, getting these sponsors or other organizations to help out? What type was it? Was it a challenge? Was it difficult to get this done? What did that look like?
Absolutely, because schools themselves are institutions. So we view everything through achievement, crime, and punishment. We believe that if there is an infraction, there's a consequence for that infraction, and then that infraction then addresses behavior. It doesn't. It can re-traumatize students. So I just told you my age and the era that I come from. So we knew that if we got caught with 4.5 ounces of crack or cocaine hard, that we're risking going to jail for the rest of our lives. And the only thing that happened was our prisons have become overcrowded. We knew that premeditated murder gets you life, and yet that mandatory life sentence didn't prevent people from committing those crimes. So healthy people think differently. The healed hear differently. So how do you address, you can't put that many poor people into a space, people who are, I don't want to call them poor. When I reference poor, I don't mean it as I'm saying anything negative about them. It's just the financial condition. You can't put us into those environments and believe that we're going to be healthy because we're all fighting for survival. So what does a soldier look like coming back from war? Those are our kids every day. They're coming from these battlegrounds, walking into a school, and you're wondering why they're angry. So it was difficult because schools of education don't prepare people for the environment that they're going to walk into. To be altruistic enough to say that I'm going to find out what the root, it is easy to say you're going home for what you did. But all you have to do is look at data. And I don't mean data around school suspension. Our prisons can't be any more crowded. They can't build enough of them. So why would we continue a practice that the data tells us through research that it is a failed practice? So what I said was if a solution was out there, we'd have it already. I'm going to create the solution. And that's really where it came about. I forgot to mention we have an animal assisted interventions program. We have 6 therapy dogs. We have a program called Teachers Pets, where we look at the human-animal connection. People trust animals more than they do other people. Right. That gives us an opportunity to help kids because they can become vulnerable because now they're relaxed. So it was difficult because it's new. And it's going to cause somebody to be uncomfortable because the system that we already have in place, that if you don't do what I told you, then there are going to be consequences and you're going home. So it comes from a system where we leverage and exercise power. I want authority. And the difference between the two is willing submission. You're going to do it because I asked you to, because we have a relationship, and I never have to exercise my power. But for people who don't feel confident enough to walk in that space, or who they themselves have some unresolved trauma. So you remind me of a kid that used to bully me when I was in school. So you did something, now I'm triggered, hey, he got to go. Right. And I'm holding that grudge because I ain't mad at you. I'm mad at that guy who did that to me when we were in school. But I don't even understand that. So how do you force people to address some of their own demons? So it wasn't the easiest. We've created the culture. The biggest challenge is that it's transient. So that by the time you get it in place, new teachers come in or somebody retires. Right. Yeah. And the culture has to reset. But it's the best work that can be done if you're genuinely concerned with helping people. I agree wholeheartedly, and that's super dope. And I would love to know, we're speaking about
adults who also have undealt with trauma and things like that. I know somebody called you crazy, or anybody else that was trying to help with this process crazy in terms of doing it, and like, oh, this ain't gonna work or whatever. What type of adversity did you have to go with, or battles you had to fight with those type of folks in order to, you know, get this established?
Yeah. So I'm looking at that data, right? But I'm not looking for data that provides confirmation bias where, okay, here's what I'm saying, so here's this research to support it.
Yeah.
No, let me show you research that is incredibly objective. Now, beyond the research, let me show you these images of our communities. I don't care who the president has been, right? Take out the most recent success that Detroit has had in development. Detroit was on a 50-year decline. Didn't matter who was in office.
Yeah.
So what I'm telling people is, this isn't the gospel according to Derek. Let me take you on this journey, but I'm gonna take you on this visual journey. Let me show you what neighborhoods used to look like. I'll use The Wire as TV programs. Show, and I just talked about it, and it just slipped my mind. Snowfall, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
They chronologically show you what happened to our communities and the decay of the community, the advancement or the explosion of the prison system. So how can you argue with that? So I'm not getting loud. I just improve my argument. I want to give you information. This isn't my opinion. And we can't have a discussion about it unless you've done the same thing. So I challenge people with fact. And for the most part, people sign up for it, but then it's creating the fitness, because there's a mental, physical, and spiritual fitness that goes along with saying, here's what I'm going to do. So you're hiring people for fit. You're hiring people who believe that this is the work that we're going to do. If you go on a fitness journey and you go to the gym, in your mind, you're like, all right, I'm about to go in there and run a mile. And 2 minutes on that treadmill, you like, man, your heart is about to jump out your chest.
Yeah.
So how do you incrementally help people get better? By understanding what we're doing. Because the goal is for you to lift 225 pounds. If the first day you came into the gym and I put you up under 225 and it falls on your chest, you're defeated. You won't believe in it now. If I can show you here's the goal, but here's the path to get there, you'll be much more apt to do it, because I'm building your stamina, endurance, and your strength so that you feel much more confident walking into that. Similar philosophy.
Gotcha. That makes total sense. And as far as these systems being in place, so now you're starting to integrate these things into the schools and different things that surround that as far as the students go. How do you ensure that you can reach as many students as possible from the standpoint of, like, I went to Cass, any given time, it could be 4,000 students there. And you do your best to try to make sure students don't fall through the cracks, but, you know, just math, I mean, just data is going to happen. But how do you make sure that with this programming that you all have installed, that you can reach as many students as possible to help, you know, turn their trajectory around? Yeah.
So it's a partnership, right? It's a relationship. And relationships require reciprocity. We can do everything that we're supposed to do. But if the student at that time in their lives just aren't able to meet us where they are to participate in their own healing, you're not going to be able to save everybody. But, you know, I'm a disciple of the 4 agreements. And just one, we're impeccable with our word. We don't take anything personal. But one, and this is the one thing that I ask my staff, always do your best. So if we've gone in there every day and we've left exhausted because we have done, it is, whether it be bell-to-bell instruction, greeting every student with how you doing today, good morning, so I can gauge your temperature. If we've done everything we said we're supposed to, then that's the only guarantee that I can give people. Because in the midst of that, I'm also dealing with adults that they themselves are dealing with, not just adverse childhood experience things right now. Financial insecurities, you know, the cost of gas. I tell people, man, gas was $4.50 at one time. I don't care what my salary is. I can absorb it, but what about my lunch aide who makes $15 an hour? That person is coming in here and mentally they're not in the right space. So it's not just focusing on the students, but focusing on everybody in the village. And it's okay for you to say, hey, look, I need a moment, or today ain't a good day for me. So how do you support people with the understanding that we all are going to come in there at times not at our best?
Got you. And who would you say has been able to show you or surprise you in terms of being able to support these actions that you have put forth for the staff, the students, the faculty, in terms of like a partner? I know you had mentioned United Way earlier and them being a great supporter, but is there any maybe one person, group of people, organizations that have been able to step in and you weren't expecting it, but they were able to be a tremendous support for you all?
Yes. So the Good Life Agency and Vivian Palmer, she has been a phenomenal partner. She provided 3,000 pair of Nike gym shoes for us to distribute, to our student population.
That's amazing. Yeah, y'all still got open enrollment because I might come back for the shoes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
What size you wear?
I wear a 10.
All right, we're gonna send you a pair.
Bet, I love it.
Yep. So you're finding like-minded people. Here's what I love about the universe. It'll conspire with you to do whatever it is that you're trying to do. So we manifest that, and so partners come who have the same belief that we do, and here are the resources that we can leverage. We have wellness partners. So Natalie Poole and her practice, Melba, they're just this group of people who are saying, I love what you're doing. We're going to come here and help. And the Horatio Williams Foundation has just been a bunch of people who are like, hey, I love what you're doing. They can't come mentor in the sense that, because mentor is an incredible relationship that's difficult for people to sustain, but they can provide networking opportunities. They can provide spot support. Some of the partners are there at every step along the way. Some come and go. But I'm just thankful that the universe, like I said, is conspiring with us to say, we're going to send you some people because we believe in what you're trying to do.
That's amazing. That's super dope. What do you see on the horizon for this? What are some of the things that you can talk about? Because I know you may not be able to share everything, but what are some things that you would like to add to continue to help these students support your staff, your team, the people that you work with on a day in and day out basis that's in the mix right now for the future?
Yeah. So we have had an incredible emphasis on our staff wellness, health and wellness. So we use Dia Johnson with a Life Aware. Our staff is going through yoga training. We do mindfulness and meditation training to help them with their own emotional regulation. And how do you slow the mind down when you're overwhelmed by all of these things? The one thing that we're trying to do is just to make certain that the system operates as it's designed to. So where are those adjustments that need to be made? How can I find more partners that are willing to come in and say, hey, here's what we can do. As I said, the United Way have been incredible to us. I have trust issues, whether it relates from my childhood or as an adult. People promise you that they're going to do things all the time that they're going to do.
Yep.
The United Way has literally doubled down and provided us far more than I could have ever asked for. So I'm thankful for them. Like I said, the Good Life Agency, who is constantly looking for resources, and support to help us. We use, as I talked about, the animal-assisted interventions. We're growing that. That has been a process because people think, you just go find therapy dogs and bring them in. But to create the network of support around that to help children, we're just trying to get better at what we're doing. One of the things that I think hurts companies or movements is that you try to expand. So what's your hedgehog concept? Here are the things that we're going to do well. We're going to do them better than everybody else, not for a competitive advantage, but the more proficient we are in providing this service, the better we'll be able to help as many people as we can.
Definitely. That's amazing. And all the work that you've been doing over the years, it seems like it's now starting to culminate in being able to provide this structure, this infrastructure for these students to truly thrive, like when they get outside of school. That's one thing I always think about and try to mentor and give my time back because I always try to be that person for someone who didn't have, because I know I didn't at least have. Around me in my immediate circle, I didn't have the best examples, and I didn't really learn the concept of mentorship until maybe I was a junior in high school when I got an opportunity to be a part of the Midnight Golf program, and that helping like change my life and seeing the impact that it had for me. And so just trying to be there for young people, take that, and then like you said, being almost like the Terminator and being able to take that information that you have, provide it to them, and it's like, okay, this is how you take this stuff, and then you be able to transition and move it forward. So I have an immense amount of gratitude and respect for the work that you're doing, because it's definitely needed. I wish that there was more people in the school systems, especially here in Detroit, that thought that way, or in the Detroit area that thought that way, because we could just be so much further as a community for people that look like us, and then also anybody who's entering those schools. Like the trajectory just can be something crazy, because me and you both know the people in Detroit, young, old, anywhere in the middle, are more than capable. Like, they are creative, they are talented, they're intelligent, they are more than capable. Just think about all of the things that we are have an impact on and an influence on in Black culture, American culture. We are more than capable. The talent is here. And how do you just continue to bring that out and unravel that potential that these students have, starting at that incubation period when they're like in that adolescent stage.
Yeah. And so for me, I don't want to even think that I'm just like this incredible visionary. All I'm really simply saying is, we know what's happening or has happened doesn't work. Let's create a solution that we can at the very least say that it does not subscribe to a failed philosophy, but through that innovation, you can then create a vehicle to have greater outcomes. Every adult that has worked in a school has given us their best. I don't care what their behavior was, how they described it, if they were withdrawn, overly animated, negative, they're coming there, they're doing their best. I look at everybody and I know they have a story. So now I walk through life as a therapist. I people watch and I'm like, I wonder what's their story. How can I help you better help kids? How can I better craft this narrative so that you can help share it, so that we can help kids? Because we're not monetizing this. Yes, we are. We're monetizing because we're talking about a different asset. How do you help create generational wealth? And wealth has nothing to do with their personal finances, but their mental health, all of the things that really matter. How do you help break generational curses? So everybody talks about it, right? But we're in silos. Or I feel like if I mentor a handful of kids, I've done my part. I just want to create the conditions where all of this can come together. So when you come in here and you talk to young people, listen, this relationship is only going to last maybe a year. Because I don't want to re-traumatize you, because I might not be here, I could be moving on. But for this next year, you can get everything, out of me that I can give you. And then I can get you connected with somebody else who can help you along the journey. Because we come in with great intentions. People don't realize, though, even as a mentor, that once you leave that child, that young adult, if they've had abandonment issues, it opens up another wound. Whereas the mentor walks off and they're like, hey, man, I was a mentor to this kid.
I killed it. I knocked that. They're going to.
And that kid's like, I miss you.
Right.
Like, man, I haven't talked to Denzel in a while. I wonder. And I'm not saying that this has happened.
Right.
But, just using you as the example. So even helping people better understand how important their role is in this. We put too much emphasis on the college degree. And I'm just being really candid. I grew up with some guys who had, special needs that college, the degree would not have been their correct path, but they could draw. So what if I had shown them that they can literally become artists, and we're purchasing canvases, and I can take you to New York and allow you to see artists making a living? Or I can take you by Black Ink or any of these other local tattoo shops where you can become a tattoo artist because of your ability to draw. And we can help you develop an LLC and show you how to open up your own business, because the entrepreneurship, pensions don't exist anymore. So I'm not trying to send every child down that path. Some are going to go to college just to be strapped with debt that they're never going to be able to get up under. So each child has their own individual path in my district. It is our responsibility to find out what that is. I don't want what they're passionate about, because passion is an emotion, it's fleeting. You've been in love more than once. I want to help them find their purpose, because purpose is an incredible alarm clock. They'll wake up every day doing this because it doesn't feel like work. That's what we're trying to create. So it's the non-traditional school system, because school was never designed to create free thinkers. It was designed to create workers. And I want to create free thinkers.
Facts. Facts. And I have a question. I had just thought about it in terms of people who come back and work in education or mentorship, like somewhere in that type of realm. Do you feel like sometimes the people who may have been the biggest troublemakers back in the day, like knuckleheads, like they come back and they have like the best perspective for working with students nowadays?
Yeah. So I love them because, you know, your greatest lessons have come from failure. It's really, you're trying to tell a kid who you may not be able to relate. They might not be able to relate to you because your story isn't the same.
Yeah.
They don't connect with you. They don't feel, energy is real. So there's no transference of energy when we meet. But if I can come back and say, I was a free lunch kid. I didn't start college till I was 20. I took penitentiary chances. Had I been caught by any of my past decisions, I'm not given the opportunity to stand up here in front of you and they can tell that's real. But it'll help with that population. But then there are also the people who've done everything right, who those upper quartile kids need to talk to. Because, you know, I think one of the misnomers or bad, erroneous information about Detroit is that Detroit is just all poverty. And it's not.
Right.
It's kids whose parents have chosen to stay here because they're diehard Detroiters.
Right.
It's kids who your income does not determine the level of class or the amount of access that you've had to the arts to help you become this individual who's much greater than their environment. So I'm not just looking for the kids or the adults who've had this troubled past. I'm looking for people who are good for kids in general, because every kid needs something different.
Man, this you said a lot. You definitely done preached a few sermons here today. So I would, before we get up out of here, can you let the people know how they can get in touch with you if they would like to be able to follow the journey, if they want to be able, they have resources to provide support to what you're doing for your students? How can they get in touch with you? What's your, if you got a website, your socials, all that stuff?
So it's real easy. The River Rouge School District website, my email address is on there, derek.coleman@riverrougeschools.org. My cell phone is 313-212-6878. We have open enrollment. I have 34 buses that go all over the metropolitan Detroit area trying to find kids. I was a finalist to be the superintendent in DPS in 2017. And one of the arguments was he was stealing our kids. No, I'm providing children with an opportunity that they didn't have. Has nothing to do with me needing it to grow my district. My district is the largest it's ever been in its history. And the majority of the students aren't from Detroit. I'm just trying to help kids because I believe that we have a philosophy that is directly correlated to their lifelong success. You're working, it all starts at the top. You're working in a place that believes that children come first, but I'm not sacrificing adults. So if you're a community partner and you believe that there's a way that you can help, please contact us. If you're a family looking for a great district, please contact us. I didn't mention we have a dual enrollment program with Wayne County. No, I'm sorry. We have with Wayne County Community College, and I appreciate Dr. Ivory. It's now with Wayne State University at no cost to parents. We have something for everybody in our district. And some people may not know that there's a bus stop near their home. So I didn't come here to necessarily recruit students, just simply saying if there are families who have a desire for their son or daughter to go to the University of Michigan, you can send them to River Rouge. If you have a desire for them to follow this career path, you can send them to River Rouge. If their mental health is of a concern, send them to River Rouge. We're not perfect, but I don't think families will find anything better.
Absolutely. And Dr. Coleman, like I said, this has been a masterclass on education, the state of education in the Metro Detroit area, and then also how we should be looking at continuing the education of our young folks and advancing their trajectory in life. So I'm thankful for the time that you took to come in and do the interview, and really appreciate you being here.
No, I thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Yeah. And everybody watching, we'll tap in with y'all soon. Peace.